Bismillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi yassir wa la tu'assir wa tammim bil khair. Lesson number 19. In this lesson, we are going to discuss about form number 3, which is fa'ala. We have already completed form number 2 and form number 4. Which one is form number 2? Fa'ala, yufa'ilu.
فعال
Yes.
تفعيلا
Taf'ilan. Excellent. And which one is form number 4?
أفعل
Af'ala,
يفعل
yuf'ilu, if'alan. Excellent. So we have learned these 2 and 4, and they are the most important forms. They are used the most in the Quran. However, we have to learn all of them so that we are able to understand the whole Quran. So now we move on to, and that is because the Shaykh himself decided to go with form number 2 and 4, and now we move on to form number 3. So form number 3 is fa'ala. Okay, what is extra over here? You know, when we say mazid fi, that means that there is always one extra letter in the root letters. So what is extra over here?
همزة ألف أستاذ
Alif, yeah,
فاعل
alif, yeah. Alif always comes in the middle and it is always empty. It does not have any haraka on it. So that's why we call it alif. It never comes in the beginning of the sentence or the beginning of the word. So fa, ain, lam, these are the root letters. But when alif is added to that, then it becomes from number 3, it is fa'ala. So fa'ala, yufa'ilu, mufa'alatan. So as we can see over here, this is the masdar, and we know that the masdar are fixed for the derived forms of the verb, and we also know that these verbs, they are also, or these forms, they are also named after the masdar. So for example, when we say form number 3, we can also say that form number 3 is mufa'ala. So what is common between form number 2, 3 and 4? That mudari always starts with you. Mudari always starts with you. For example, we have fa'ala yufa'ilu taf'ilan. Now we have fa'ala yufa'ilu. So we also have you over here. And then we have mufa'alatan. And then we have af'ala yuf'ilu if'alan. So we can see over here that the mudari starts with you. And it is only limited to form number 2, 3 and 4. Please remember that mudari starts with fatha. The rest of the abwab, it always starts with fatha. But when we talk about form number 2, 3 and 4, the mudari starts with dhamma, as we can see over here. So this is the pattern, as we can see here. And here is the example that we are going to follow. So the example is jahada yujahidu mujahadatan. Jahada yujahidu mujahadatan. To strive. So this is our form that we are going to discuss in this lesson. Now, as we know that we always we need to know that whether the derived form has one masdar or 2. Do you remember which verb form has 2 masadir? The derived form, which one has 2 masadir? Form number 2. Form number 2 has 2 masadir. Fa'ala yufa'ilu taf'ilan wa taf'ilatan. Taf'ilan wa taf'ilatan. Example, for example, we have sabbaha yusabbihu tasbihan, and we have samma yusammi tasmiyatan. Hayya yuhayyi tahiyatan. So that one has 2, and this also from number 3 also has 2 masadir, mufa'alatan wa fi'alan. What are those? Mufa'alatan wa fi'alan. So as we can see over here, jahada yujahidu mujahadatan wa jihadan. You know, we know both of these words, jihad and mujahada. So both of them are the masadir of form number 3. Jahada yujahidu mujahadatan wa jihadan. Sometimes this masdar is used, and sometimes this masdar is used in the Quran. However, this is the most common, and this is also used. For example, nada yunadi munadatan wa nidaan. Nidaan is more common, which is also used in the Quran. So we have to see sometimes that whenever you see a word that is on the pattern of fi'alan or fi'alun, that means this is also the masdar of form number 3. Is this clear? Sometimes you might hear the word nifaq. Nifaqun, yeah. Some people they have nifaq. So we have nafaqa, yunafiqu, munafaqatan, wa nifaqan. Similarly, we have kitab. Did you notice that kitab is also kataba, yukatibu, mukatabatan, wa kitaban. So kitaban is also, so any word that you look on the on the pattern of fi'alun, that means this is the masdar of form number 3. Even though it's not used a lot, however, this is also one of the masdar of form number 3. Now, if you see here, we have learned form number 2 already. In form number 2, we know that there is extra tashdid, or we can say there is extra ainul kalima. So it is fa'ala, yufa'ilu, and al-masdar is taf'ilun. Fi'l al-amr is fa'il, and ismul fa'il is mufa'il, and ismul maf'ul is mufa'al. And as we know that this is a rule of thumb, we can say that in these abwab, the doer is always with kasra, the second last root letter, and ismul maf'ul is always with fatha, and this is when we talk about the second last letter. And today's bab is what? Fa'ala. So what is extra over here? Alif. Fa'ala, yufa'ilu. Fi'l al-amr will be fa'il. And as we can see over here that it has two masdar. It has fi'alun wa mufa'alatun. And we have mufa'ilun and mufa'alun. As we know, ismul fa'il will be always with kasra, and ismul maf'ul will be with fatha, the second last letter. Okay, and we have also learned the fourth form, which is af'ala. So we know that here hamza is extra. So this is hamza. Why we call it hamza? Because alif has fatha on it. So whenever alif has fatha on it, or kasra on it, or dhamma on it, then we don't call it alif, we call it hamza. Even if it has sukoon on it, we will call it hamza. Af'ala, yuf'ilu, if'al. So if'al is the masdar. Af'il is fi'l al-amr, muf'il and muf'al. So this is ismul fa'il, and this is ismul maf'ul. So now form number 2 already finished, form number 4 already finished, and form number 3, as we discussed that we will complete it inshallah in this lesson. So what is common over here? Al-mudari starts with you.
Dhamma.
Yeah, dhamma, excellent. And in only these 3 abwab. And similarly, ismul fa'il and ismul maf'ul, they start with mu. They start with also dhamma. So these are the small things that we need to know. So even if it's ismul fa'il or maf'ul, they also start with dhamma, as we can see here, mu and mu. Okay. Characteristics of form number 3. It has only one characteristic, not a lot. What is that? It is reciprocal. What does that mean? Or it can be collective action. Verbs of this form usually show an action being done with another person or group. So basically, one person is doing or performing an action on the other person or the other group. And it is always transitive. That means it is al-fi'l al-muta'addi, and it always needs an object. So the only thing that we need to remember, or the only quality that, or the characteristic that this form has, it normally involves 2 parties or 2 persons. One is generally the active or the receiver of the doer of the action, and the other is normally the passive, which is the receiver of the action. However, it always involves how many persons? 2. How many groups? 2. Yeah. So there has to be one person against the whole group, or it can be one person against the other person, or it can be the whole group against one person. So one is generally the doer of the action, and the other is generally the receiver of the action. However, it can be reciprocal. That means both of them can be the doer of the action, and both of them can be receiver of the action. Okay, we have a surah in the Quran, And the name of the surah is on the pattern of the name of the masdar of form number 3. Do you remember which surah of the Quran? I can give you the hint. It starts with Jim, Dal, and Alif. Jadala. Mujadala. Yeah, Mujadala. Okay. So Mujadala, as we know that there was a kind of bit of dialogue between Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then there was a lady. So that's why it is called Mujadala. Okay, now one more thing that you need to remember, something very interesting in the Quran, and it refers to only when we talk about the masdar of the names of the surahs. So it can be Mujadala and it can be Mujadila. And please remember, it refers to only when we talk about the names of the surahs of the Quran. So when you are referring to the surah of the Quran, in some masahif, you can find it with Mujadala and it can also be Mujadila. And similarly, we have a surah that is called Mumtahana. So sometimes it is called Mumtahana and sometimes it is called Mumtahina. Okay, when we reach that bab, we will discuss about that. However, this one, but the most common that we need to remember is with fatha. The masdar is with fatha, which is mufa'alatun, mufa'alatun. And we have mujadalatun. However, if you see it in the Quran, don't be confused because there is a possibility that it can have fatha and it can have kasra. Now, if we look at the main verb or the base verb or the verb that has 3 root letters, it is qatala, qatala. That means to kill. But when we bring it into form number 3, it becomes qatala. That means to fight. So normally when there is a fight is between 2 persons, or it can be between 2 groups, right? Sometimes a person might be fighting with himself as well. It's like with his inner self, there's something different, but normally it involves 2 parties, one party being active and the other party being the receiver of the action. Now in the Quran we have yuqatiluna fi sabilillah fayaqtuluna fayuqtalun. Okay, yuqatiluna. Now you need to notice that in the Mus'haf, sometimes we have the long fatha, or we call it standing fatha, and it is only restricted to the writing of the Quran, that instead of alif, we find sometimes in the Quran we find this standing fatha or we find this long fatha. For example, we have Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. So whenever you see in the Quran Alameen, you will see that on Ain there is a long fatha, and it is not like Alameen, it's not written like this, it is written with the long fatha. So please remember that whenever you see this long fatha, it equals what? It equals alif. It equals alif. So yuqatiluna fi sabilillahi, they fight in the cause of Allah. Fayaqtuluna, yaqtuluna is from qatala yaqtulu, yaqtuluna, they kill. Vayuqtalun, and they are killed. So what is the difference here? Yaqtuluna vayuqtaluna. What is the difference between these two? Please tell me quickly.
Yeah, has fatha and this has
Dhamma. Okay. So what is the difference between these two?
Yaqtuluna, they kill.
They kill. Okay.
Yuqtalun, they are killed.
They are killed. So this is active and this is passive. This is active and this is passive. Okay, what is the difference between yuqtaluna wa yuqatiluna? What is the difference between these two then? Yuqtaluna is the passive form of verb from number 1. Yuqatiluna is the active form of form number 3, as we can see over here. Qatala yuqatilu, yuqatiluna. So if you look at the translation, yuqatiluna, they fight. So this is from number 3. Yuqatiluna, they fight. Fi sabilillahi. So this is from number 3, and this is from number 1. Fayaqtuluna, and they kill. Wa yuqtaluna, or they are killed. So you need to be very careful whenever you see dhamma. Whenever you see dhamma on mudare, there might be a confusion that whether it is form number 2, 3, or 4. However, if you pay some extra attention, you will be able to figure out that there should be one extra alif, or there should be extra tashdeed, or there should be extra what is in the form number 4? What is extra? There has to be extra hamza. So if you find any of these, that means that this is form number 2, 3, or 4. Basically, this is 2, and this is 3, and this is 4. If there is no alif, if there is no tashdeed, and if there is no extra hamza, that means this is the passive form of the mudari. This is the passive form of the mudari. Is this clear?
Yes, Ustad.
Okay, excellent. There is another characteristic of this bab which is not very common. However, since we are like focusing on the Quran, and we know that baraka is used in the Quran a lot, barakna. So sometimes verbs of this form might have a completely new meaning from their triliteral root. So triliteral root is baraka. Baraka means to kneel down or to bend. Okay, baraka. It's not used in the Quran. However, it is used in the Hadith, as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "إذا سجد أحدكم فلا يبرك كما يبرك البعير." When one of you prostrates, yani when he does sajda, he should not kneel in the manner of a camel. So what he is supposed to do basically, وَلْيَضَعْ يَدَيْهِ قَبْلَ رُكْبَتَيْهِ. What he should do, he should put down his hands before his knees. So that's the hadith, that whenever someone kneels down or prostrates, he should put his hands first and then his knees. Okay, so baraka yabruku, and it refers to the kneeling down of the camel. Okay, the hadith, as I told you, إِذَا سَجَدَ أَحَدُكُمْ فَلَا يَبْرُكْ كَمَا يَبْرُكُ الْبَعِيرُ. But when we take it to form number 3, it becomes baraka, that means to bless. Baraka, that means to bless. As we make dua to our brothers or sisters or our brothers in Islam, we say barakallahu feek, right? Barakallahu feek, that means may Allah bless you. So baraka means to bless, as we can see over here. وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ وَلُوطًا إِلَى الْأَرْضِ الَّتِي بَارَكْنَا فِيهَا لِلْعَالَمِينَ. Do you notice over here? Alameen. So here we have a long fatha, which basically equals alif. This basically equals alif. And we saved him and Lut alayhi salam and brought him to the land of Levant, that we have blessed for all people. Now you can see over here, barakna. So this is the past form, and this is the last form of baraka. So when you do the conjugation, baraka, baraka, baraku, and you continue to the end, it will be baraktu and barakna fiha lil alamin. So baraka means to bless. Barakallahu fikum, as we say, may Allah bless you all. Okay, baraka, what is the present tense of baraka? Yubariku. Yubariku. Mubarakatan. What will be the ismul fa'il? Mubarik. Mubarak. And what will be the ismul maf'ul? Mubarak. Laylatan mubarakatan. Yeah, so Mubarak is basically someone who is blessed. That's why there are many people, they have the name of Mubarak. So we say blessed. That person is blessed. Do you remember any other word that we use? Mubarak? Eid Mubarak, right? Yeah, when we greet someone, we say blessed Eid. So basically we say Eid Mubarak. That means may Allah bless you with a blessed Eid. So that's why we say Eid Mubarak. Okay. So now we see over here Jahada, Yujahidu, Mujahadatan. Fail al-Amr is Jahid. Very simple Fail al-Amr. So basically what happens, as you know, that we drop Alamat al-Mudari and we make the ending Sakin. And if it is readable, that means it is ready. Fail al-Amr is ready. So what is Fail al-Amr? Jahid. Jahid, as we can see over here. So Fail al-Amr is Jahid. Ismul Fa'il, as we have discussed many times, that with the Mudari, what we do, we change you into Mu. Yeah, you into mu, and then in the end we put tanween, so it becomes mujahid. So mujahid is ismul fa'il, and mujahad is ismul maf'ul, as we can see over here. So when we have kasra on the second last root letter, it is ismul fa'il, and when we have fatha on the second last root letter, then it is ismul maf'ul. Is this clear? So we have jahada yujahidu mujahadatan, baraka yubariku mubarakatan. So we will say barik, and we say mubarik and mubarak, right? Okay, as-sarf as-saghir, as we always discuss that, at least we should be able to know like what is the sarf as-saghir, yani the small conjugation. What is the difference between small conjugation and the big conjugation? In big conjugation, for the past tense, we have 14 forms, and the present tense, we have 14 forms, right? Starting from number one, jahada, jahada, jahadu, ending to the, going to the end, right? And similarly, for the passive, we also have 14 forms, and similarly, for the passive of the present tense, we also have 14 forms. But when we talk about as-sarf as-saghir, that means we only focus on the past tense and the present tense, ismul fa'il and ismul maf'ul, and also we focus on the masdar. So jahada yujahidu mujahadatan fahuwa mujahidun. And then this is very interesting. And this is the only unique form of passive. What is the passive form over here? Juhida. As we have in the Quran, إِذَا نُودِيَ لِلصَّلَاةِ الْجُمْعَةِ نُودِيَ juhida. Okay. Why has it changed into juhida? It was basically jahada, as we know. And we know that the mudare, the passive, whether passive for the present tense or the past tense, the passive always starts with dhamma, right? You know that, right? That the passive always starts with dhamma, whether it is the present or it is the past. Okay. So it was basically, if you put dhamma over here, jahada, yeah, when you put dhamma over here, now what happens, we know that alif is not compatible with dhamma. What is compatible with dhamma? Wow, excellent. Yeah. So basically this alif has changed into wow. So it has become juhida. Why it has this is juhida? Because we know that the passive for the past tense is always on the pattern of fu'ila. It is always on the pattern of fu'ila. Whether it is the verb that has 3 root letters or it has 4 or 5, it will always come on the pattern of fu'ila. So that's why it has become juhida. So we have jim, and that extra alif has changed into waw, and then we have kasra, and then we have fatha on the same pattern as we can see over here. Fu'ila, it has changed into juhida. Okay, what will be the passive form of qatala? Qatala. Qutila, excellent. Baraka, burika, right? Burika, yes. And when you do the conjugation, burika and burika, buriku, so burikta, buriktuma, buriktum. So whenever you make dua to someone, you also say burikta fik or burikti fiki. May Allah bless you. So sometimes people use, you might have seen that sometimes people use the passive form as well. So this is the passive form of form number 3, which is juhida. Whereas the here, when we talk about the present tense, the alif comes back. Why alif comes back? Because before alif, as you can see over here, we have fatha. So that's why alif comes back. So it becomes yujahadu. Yujahadu. So this is yujahidu and this is yujahadu. So look at the difference, very small difference. When we have kasra, that means this is the active. And when we have fatha on the second last root letter, that means this is passive. Passive for the present tense. So juhida yujahadu mujahadatan fadaka mujahadun. As we know, it is mujahadun. And jahid is failul amr, jahid, and failul nafi or failul nahi will be la tujahid. La tujahid. And this is only basically for the purpose of practice. Jahid, la tujahid. And mujahadun. Why do we have it here again? We have here and we have here again. Why?
That's two masdar. Is that Ustad?
Okay, so if it has two masadir or two masdar, we have here mujahid and mujahad, but this is not masdar. Here we are talking about
Yeah.
dharf. Dharf. Please remember, this information is very important. That ismul maf'ul also sometimes it is used as dharf. It can be dharf al-zaman or it can be dharf al-makan. You remember the example of mudkhal? You remember? Allahumma adkhilni mudkhalan. So mudkhal, as we can see over here. So mudkhal can be ismul maf'ul and it can also be used as dharf. So this information is very important. We don't have any specific pattern for dharf when we talk about the mazid fi forms. So in the mazid fi form, basically ismul maf'ul serves the purpose of dharf. Dharf zaman or makan. So it serves the purpose of. So if needed to use dharf for the mazid fi form, then it can be used only as ismul maf'ul. But then in this case, we will not call it ismul maf'ul. What do we call it? We call it dharf. It can be dharf, most likely it can be dharf al-makan, adverb of place. Do you remember this information? It seems you forgot. Okay, so please remember this information. We have few more examples, and I think after these examples, hopefully we will just stop over here. So we have here qatala, he killed, and qatala, he fought. So please look at the examples and look at the meaning. Jahada, he exerted himself, and jahada, he endeavored or he strived. Similarly, we have shahida, he witnessed, and shahada means to view or to watch. Shahad al-talfaz, to watch TV. Khataba means to deliver a public speech, and khataba, we have he addressed someone directly. Khataba yukhatibu mukhatabatan, and we have mukhatib and we have mukhatab. Do you remember mukhatab? Does anyone remember mukhatab?
Muhatab is
The second person, yeah?
second person.
Yeah, so what is the second person called? The second person is called mukhatab. Excellent, mukhatab, perfect, yeah. And similarly, we have nada, he called, but when we take it to form number 3, it becomes nada. So he called, nada, yunadi, and it has two masdar, munadat, and also nida'an. It has two masdars. All right, so I hope the ideas and the concepts are clear now about form number 3, and inshallah when we come back again for the next lesson, hopefully we will go through some of the points, main important points of the lesson, and then we will start our lesson. Okay, any questions?
No, Ustad.
All right, barakallahu fikum, subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa iyyakum. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك وإياكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.